The deciding factor in the game was turnovers. We had 18 at halftime, 28 for the game. It's really hard to win if we can't take care of the ball. Why did we turn the ball over? There's a variety of things that go into that. The first one is we did not do a good job fighting for our space. The second one is we did not do a good job playing in straight lines. The last one is we did not do a good job of passing the ball early. Because, again, when I look at 28 turnovers, but 16 of them are live ball, you put yourself in a really, really bad spot. I thought the third quarter was the quarter that we took care of the ball the best, and the score reflected that. When it comes to analytics and all the things that are tracked and all the stats, the possession game is still going to be one of the most important things, and we did not do a good job of taking care of the ball tonight. So we have a big road trip coming up. I know the team will stay together. We need to continue to tighten up the attention to detail, especially on the defensive side of the ball. But the overall force that we do things with has to continue to go up. All the young players, everybody has to do 15 to 20% more in terms of the force that you're trying to do everything with. That's setting up to get a catch. That's sprinting to screen. That's changing ends of the floor. It's things that anybody can do. There will be plays that will happen where, based on age, sometimes the other player is more physically developed than we are. Those plays don't bother me, but we still have to maximize everything we've got. And I feel like tonight, for the first half in particular, I just thought that we were on our heels and that Detroit pushed us around. They got through every screen. They got their hand on the ball. We didn't make good early decisions with the ball. 18 turnovers in the half, but we had 11 in the first quarter. It just sets a really bad tone for the game. And we'll do a better job on this trip in terms of how we start these games.
What do you want to see Isaiah improve at the most over these next stretch of games?
Ball pressure. I think he can do a much better job of setting the tone for our defense. It has to be ball pressure with discipline, though. Isaiah has really good hands, but I do think there are times where he can get a little bit ambitious reaching on the ball and gets out of position. We need him to be ultra solid, especially early in the clock, like applying good ball pressure, good pickup points, being disruptive, but being solid with his feet and his angles. As the clock wears on, I recognize there are opportunities to go for steals, to try to be super disruptive, and I'm always going to give guys like Isaiah the license to do those things, but early in the clock, he's got to be more solid.
Kyle had a career high tonight. What did you think of this game?
I think the work that Kyle's done on his shooting is showing itself. It's one of the real bright spots, and probably just because it stands out in an obvious way in terms of the development this season. Kyle developing his perimeter shot changes how he's guarded, changes things that we can do with him on the floor. Obviously, as we continue to go forward, we did it a little bit in the fourth quarter, which I wouldn't read too much into those few minutes, but I do think as we continue to go forward, there should be some opportunity for Walker and Kyle to play a little bit together and see what it looks like. I feel like early in the season, Kyle wasn't shooting the ball quite as well, and so those two together didn't make as much sense, but I do think it's something worth exploring a little bit, this next stretch of games. How much will be dependent on a bunch of things, but I do think that the improvement in his shooting now gives us that opportunity. It's really good for our team. It's obviously really good for Kyle.
You've mentioned multiple times, the idea of like asking someone to change their shot in their rookie season, like you've used the PG Tour metaphor before. Like, with Kyle, because he mentioned, like, I've been working on it in the middle of the season, which was difficult because I'd come in and I'd shoot threes in the game, but I was just working on mid-range with my new release at practice. How did, was he approached about changing his shot, or was it him that was asking questions? How did that work?
I went to Kyle directly, and he and I sat down and had just an honest conversation about where he's at, where he's going. But ultimately, it's Kyle's decision. I recognize that he has to play in the games, and there's going to be the psychological barriers that show up at different times. And so it needs to be his decision so that he's really invested in the work and doesn't feel like it's something that's being pushed on him. Because then if he didn't have great results early, he's going to say, well, they're making me do X, Y, or Z, and I didn't really want to do it. So it was more about just having like a very honest adult conversation with Kyle about, this is what I see. This is what I see the possibilities being. And I just want you to understand those things and think about it. And, you know, he came back and said that he wanted to start working on it. So it definitely wasn't like a forced thing. You know, you do check-ins with the guys and you have conversations about a bunch of different elements as it relates to their development. And for him, it seemed like one that we could start to work on, but only if he felt comfortable doing it.
Because he has a pretty versatile offensive skill set, does shooting more threes unlock more of those things, or does it make him more of a specialist as a shooter, and how do you weigh that?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think I've said before, I think the three-point line has ruined more guys than it's made, but I just think it's going to give Kyle an opportunity to do a couple of different things. I do think that the rest of his skill set is still going to be utilized. But I think it's going to ultimately probably give him more opportunity because he'll be able to play with different guys. You know, as we're talking about maybe exploring him and Walker together, if he wasn't shooting the ball well, it would be hard to justify an offensive lineup with he and Walker, just because it warps the spacing some. So it's a good question because it should, if balanced correctly, just feed off of his other skills. But that's going to be a big part of my responsibility as it relates to Kyle, to not turn him into a specialist or somebody that just spaces the court. The part that I've been happy with is that I think he's mixing, when he sets pick and roll, popping and rolling. I'll start to get concerned if he's only popping, because he is such a good playmaker, you know, in that pocket area. So it's something that myself and our staff will have to keep an eye on to make sure that we're getting the balance right. That being said, there will be a game at some point soon where you could come in here and go, hey man, like Kyle only shot threes tonight. And that's where the adjustment's going to take a minute. There will be some nights where he doesn't shoot enough of them. So that's going to be probably the thing with Kyle that'll be monitored the most as we go through this next stretch of games, is just trying to continue to find that balance.
I had a conversation with John a few days ago about what's maybe surprised him the most this season in general, and he said just really how strong the locker room is. No matter what's going on, ups and downs, and maybe even looking at the outcome tonight wasn't what you guys wanted. What does that mean as a coach, hearing how strong the locker room really is to just keep pushing through the stretch of the season?
Yeah, I think it means that we've done a good job identifying the types of people that we want in the locker room. I think it means there's been good leadership from the veteran guys. I think it means the younger players have been able to build relationships with the veteran players. I think sometimes when you have veteran players and young players, a big hurdle to get over is the young players not feeling like they're being attacked. And so I think the way the vets have handled their interactions with the young players, but also the way the young players have handled their interactions with the veterans, is why the relationships are so strong in there. They really do root for each other. They work hard together. I am proud of how the team carries themselves. It would be easy in these tough moments to go inward and start pointing the finger and complaining and trying to talk about all the things that are wrong. But I do think that they generally stay pretty focused on the task at hand, and they try to lean into the positive pieces and trying to build on those.
Thank you.
Thanks.